Hi guys, thank you for joining me. In this tutorial, we will learn how to write Lambda expressions in Java 8. So let's see what we are going to cover. We will cover what is the objective of this tutorial. Then next we will see what are Lambda expressions. Then we will go on to what are the benefits of Lambda expressions. We will see few practical examples of how to write Lambda expressions. And then finally I will provide you the source code location of the examples which I have used in this tutorial. Okay, so let's go ahead. So the objective of this tutorial is to make sure that you're comfortable with Lambda expression, and once you have watched this video you should be able to write Lambda expression on your own. So hopefully you complete this video and move on to writing your own Lambda expression. That is the goal of this video. So what are Lambda expressions? So Lambda expressions provide a way to represent a method interface using expressions. So that is the definition, but in simple terms what it means is using Lambda expressions you can represent the code which is getting implemented in a method using simple expressions. Okay, we will see how to write them. Most of the examples which you are going to see in Lambda expressions are implementations of anonymous classes method, and they are written in such a manner that they are very easy to read and understand. Thirdly, you will also see that when you write Lambda expressions, you will be able to reduce multiple lines of code into a single line. Okay, so it becomes very small and compact compared to the original code once a method has been converted into Lambda expression. What are the benefits of Lambda expression? So as we have already discussed, it reduces the amount of code which we write while writing anonymous class implementation. So remember one thing, the less amount of code we write, lesser mistakes we made, right? So Lambda expressions help you to reduce the amount of code, and multiple lines of code can be reduced to a single line. So that was the feature we discussed, and that is also one of the most important benefits of Lambda expressions. They gel very well with Stream API, which is one of the most popular features in Java 8. So streams are very important. Okay, in fact streams are one of the most important reasons many applications are getting migrated to Java 8. To get the full advantage of Streams API, you should use Lambda expressions. So that is all the more reason you should be comfortable with Lambda expression. Once you go through with this tutorial, you should be able to write Lambda expressions, and then once you practice more, you will be becoming more comfortable and be able to use very easily in Streams. I will also be covering Streams API in a future tutorial shortly. Just look out for that. Usually when you create anonymous class implementation in your class, if you go and see the places where the class files are generated, you would see that it also generates equivalents of anonymous classes, and those classes have dollar in them, right? But if you use Lambda expression which represent the anonymous class implementations, Java 8 does not create the anonymous class files in the JVM. Okay, so that is also one of the major enhancement which has been done in Lambda expression in Java 8 compared to other languages which implement Lambda expressions. So now let us see some practical examples of Lambda expressions. So let us see first practical example of Lambda expression. So I'll create a class called example1, I'm naming this class example1. So let's try to create a thread class with Runnable. Okay, so we'll say thread t1 equals new thread, and one of the constructors for thread is Runnable. So I'll say new Runnable. Since Runnable is not a class, it is a interface. Okay, so I have to create an anonymous instance of the Runnable interface. Okay, so let's see what is there in the Runnable interface. What is the method? As you can see, there is only one method called run, and it is also defined as functional interface. We learnt about functional interface in the last video. So we just have to implement the run method. So what we will do is we will say that I want to rely on the compiler, and I'll click on this. So it has given us a structure of the run method. Okay, so I will say system out, and so this is the original code or the usual code which we are used to. Now to run the thread, we will say t1 dot start, right? So what if I want to create 3 threads? So what I'll do is I'll copy this method, paste it, again paste it, and I'll call it t2, and here also t2 dot start thread 2, thread 3, and this is thread 3, and this is thread 3. Okay, what I'll do is I'll move all these start together. So I'll cut it from here, paste it, and also cut it from here and paste it. I'll just indent it. Let's show the line numbers. So you can see we created 3 thread objects, and just 3 thread objects, and they take approximately 30 lines or 34 lines till the place we start. Okay, so there is a lot of code if I want to create a runnable interface. And why we are creating a runnable interface? Because we just want to use this run method. So that is the basic purpose of using this anonymous implementation of runnable interface. Okay, now let us see how to write the same code using Lambda expressions. So if I want to convert this entire declaration of anonymous class into Lambda expression, let's try to first simplify this, and then we will see how to create the Lambda expression. Okay, so first of all, we can see that this is the actual code, right? This is the code I want to convert. Okay, so this is a thread new, this is thread new thread, and this is the ending of this method. Okay, or this constructor. Okay, now I just want this piece of the logic. Okay, I'm not bothered about the actual name of the class, implementation class, or the method name. I am only bothered about this section, right? So what we have to do? So let's see what we have to do. So I will summarize the steps. So step 1, remove anonymous class declaration. Okay, and opening braces 2. We will remove method declaration, method name, okay, and replace curly braces with lambda separator. Step 3, we will remove closing braces for method and class, which is the anonymous class. Okay, number 4, last step, remove semicolon after the statement, okay, unless it is a method block. Fine. So let us see. So one by one we will do. So it says remove anonymous class declaration and opening braces. So this is the anonymous class declaration and the opening braces. We can remove this. Then it says remove method name and replace curly braces with separator. So we will remove the method name. Okay. So I'll leave alone the parameter list. Then replace this with separator. So I will replace this with a separator. Then it says remove closing braces for the method and anonymous classes. So I will remove the method brace and the class brace. Okay. Finally, it says remove the semicolon after statement unless it is a method block. So I can remove this. Fine. Then I'll remove the extra spaces. So this is your lambda expression. Okay. And I'll remove this. So basically what is happening is this is the constructor argument and this is your lambda expression also. Okay, I'll remove the extra white spaces. So this is how it looks like. So isn't it very simple, and it's also saving so much of space. Okay, now let's see how many lines we will need if I use lambda expression for all the 3 threads. Okay, so I'll paste it and I'll say thread 2. So same thing for thread 3. Okay, so now let's run it. We can see this output. Okay, the point is the number of lines which were like around 34 have reduced to 18, and that too after adding 4 lines of comments, right? So we can see how drastically the code has changed, it has reduced, and how simple it is to read. So that is the first example of lambda expressions. Next, we will quickly look into a similar example of how to create lambda expression out of a very familiar example. Okay, so what we will do is we will copy this file and paste it, and we will call it example 2 and open it. So instead of thread, what we will do is we will create runnable now. So we'll say for now let's first remove these code. I'm keeping these steps for our reference which we will use. So runnable r1 equals new runnable. Now what is runnable? Runnable is a interface. So we are basically creating an anonymous class implementation of this interface. So we can say add unimplemented methods. So this is what we get. So what we will do is we'll say uh, system out runnable thread r1, right? And finally we will say r1 dot run. Okay, so if I run it, you will see that this is the output we get. Now what if I want to convert this into a lambda expression? So let's see the steps. First is remove the anonymous class declaration and the opening braces. So I will remove this and this. Okay, next is remove the method name and replace this opening braces with a lambda separator. So since I'm removing the method name, I don't even need the override, so I'm removing that. And now I have to replace this with the lambda separator. Okay, third is remove the closing braces for the method and the anonymous class. So these two are this is for the method and this is for the class. Okay, so I can remove both. So this is our lambda expression. Now if I want to run it, you see we get still the same result. So this is a very simple way to create lambda expression. Okay, next we will go to different kind of example. The next example which I am going to show you is very interesting example in the sense it uses a real object which we are going to sort, and this is a very common requirement. So we will see how to use lambda expressions to reduce the code we need to sort the list of objects. So the object which we are going to sort is called person, and this person has got name, age, gender and area code, and gender is a enum I have created which is having two values, male and female. We have a person factory which what it does is it just creates 6 objects. Okay, and for creating the objects I have used a person builder which uses the builder pattern. Fine, so it's nothing but just creating one by one 6 objects with certain age, name, gender and area code. Okay, so this is p1, p2, p3, p4, person 5 and person 6. Okay, so and finally it returns those persons. So these objects I have already created beforehand so as to save time for this video. And do not worry, I will be posting you the link of GitHub from where you can download the code. Okay, so let's create a very simple example of how to sort these list of persons based on various criteria like name or area code or gender using lambda expressions. Okay, so let's create that. So I'll create a new class. I'll say example 3 and I'll say that I want a public static void main method. So that is what has been done. Now I will say list of person. I'll import it. Persons equals person factory dot create persons. Okay, so this will now tell this will 1 second, let me import it. Okay, so this method will create 6 person objects and put it in the persons. Okay, okay, now let's say I want to sort these persons based on name, alphabetic order of names. So it's very simple. I'll say collections, which is a utility class in the collection framework, dot sort, and I'll say take the second one. And what do I want to sort? I want to sort the persons. Okay, and we have to use a comparator implementation of the anonymous comparator interface, which is also a functional interface. So I'll say new comparator okay, and this is what type of object it is going to sort. I'll say it's going to sort person type of object. Then I'll come here and say add the unimplemented methods. Okay, and now we will try to sort them. Okay, so so what do we want to sort on? Okay, let's say I want to sort on name of the person, alphabetic order of name. So return o1 dot get name dot compare, and we will say o2 dot get name. Okay, so what this will do is this will sort them in the alphabetic order of names and put it back in this persons. Okay, now we will print them. So we will say persons dot for each. So for each is a new method which has been added to collection in Java 8. So this can be used to print the collection values. Okay, so here also we can use a lambda expression. So I'll say p1, so that for each person, and I'll say system dot out, okay, dot print ln and p1. So I'm going to print the p1 object. So now we will run it and see. So let's see what is the output. As you can see, it has put Alex, Cindy, Matt, Mindy, Paul and Srini. So these are the objects which are the final output in the persons list, and they are all in alphabetic order. Okay, what if I want to use a lambda expression to do the same? So now as you can see, it's like taking 4-5 lines. So let's try to do the lambda magic and try to reduce the number of lines. So as we mentioned before, we can remove the declaration of the anonymous class. Okay, then we will remove the declaration of the method name. Okay, then we will now create a lambda separator. Fine, and we don't need the return in the lambda expression because that is assumed. Then this is the curly braces for the method which I removed, and this is the curly braces for the anonymous class which I will again remove. So this is our lambda expression. Okay, so let's put it in a single line, and we don't need this brace unless we have like block of code. We don't need it. Okay, you don't need to have the semicolon and ending on. So this is how the lambda expression for sorting looks like. Okay, now let's save it and let's verify whether it runs fine or not. So I'll run it, and let's see. Yeah, as you can see, it is still having the same order. Fine. Now let's see how far we can reduce it a little bit more. So lambda expression has one more magic. It doesn't needs, it's not necessary to give the object reference or the type of the object. Okay, it's a person. It can infer it on its own. Okay, since this collection is working on the persons, So lambda expressions will know that these are of percentile, so I don't need to mention. So this is one more new thing we learned. So we will again run it, and again we will see that they are still working. Okay. One more thing is, compared to if I open example 1 which we did earlier, so we used to give a blank parameter, right? But this guy has two parameters, so you have to give the parameters in comma separated manner. Okay. Now, just in case you're forgetting, we already have one more lambda expression over here, and this guy has no parameter. So what is the reason? The reason is, if you have a single parameter, you can ignore the parenthesis. Okay. So I could have written it like this also. So this will still work. Okay. But since it is single parameter, I can ignore the parenthesis and it will still work. And lastly, I want to show you one more thing, which is called method reference, which I will touch briefly. I will touch method reference again in a little bit more detail in the next tutorial. But for now, let us see one more fun stuff. So P1 here also, if you see, we have not mentioned what kind of data P1 is. It is inferred. Why? Because it's a list of persons. So each element is person element. Okay, and that I am printing. You can also say P1 dot get name. So it will only print the names, right? So this is also very simple. One more thing is, what we are doing is we are taking this P1 and passing this to println instance method of system.out, right? But we are not changing anything in P1. So we are just, this is called pass through. Okay, we are taking P1 and passing it to system out, and we are not changing anything in the P1 object. So in such cases, lambda expressions also allows something called method reference. Okay, so what is method reference? Method reference means this is the target, I want to reference this, and I know that I'm going to pass only P1 and I don't want to do anything. So what I can do is, if I'm, so here also I'm manipulating. Okay, but let us say I was just passing P1, so I can say that I don't want to say P1, I want to say this. Okay, so what it means is, I am going to utilize the println method. I want to reference the println method in the out object, and for each of them it should print it. So let us see whether it can do it. So I can run it, and you can see it is still working. So isn't it like marvelous? One more final thing, just to have a little bit fun, I can very easily say collection dot person 01802, and then I can sort it on let's see what are the other parameters. So it has got like name, age, gender, area code. So if I want to sort on gender, I'll say gender and O2 dot. Okay, now since this is getting overridden, let me comment this, I'll run this. Okay, so as you can see, all the males are together and all the females are also together. So it has sorted based on the gender. Okay, so this is all I had just to show you how to create lambda expressions. I'll be uploading the code and I'll put the source code location in the next slide. And I hope you have liked this video. You will try it on your own. This is the link to the source code in the Git. I have uploaded the source files, so you can very easily go there, take them, and then use them as reference and practice them. Practice these examples, as well as you can take them forward with your own examples. So thank you, and please subscribe to my channel and provide your inputs in the comment section. I'll see you next time with one more tutorial shortly. So take care. Bye bye.